All right, so let's get properly started. I'm going to share my screen.
And also, like, while Alicia is sharing her screen, just want to say thank you for everyone for joining. This is a casual get together for all of us DevRel professionals. We've also checked to make sure that we have a group of DevRel professionals. So feel free to like share any ideas that you have in with this. Okay, are we good, Alicia?
Yeah, go for it, Sarah.
Okay, so if you look at this starting slide, maybe we'll share a bit about how this came about. This is really the first time that we're having a DevRel Folks Asia. So Alicia and I presented at DevRel Con UK back in December last year. And then we had a really good experience and we saw how there was a lot of learning that everyone got just from being together at a conference. So we're thinking, wow, we don't have something like that in Asia and it would be great if we can have something like that. But we kind of put that on pause because everything got very busy from the start of the year until March. And then unfortunately, COVID happened and it was like a crazy time for all of us. And I was also invited to join some US DevRel chat where it was very similar to this, but on the US side. And they were talking about a lot of interesting thought leadership. And we were thinking like if we have something like that for Asia, it's going to be really great for all of us to learn and improve as well. And I also want to know how to be better at my job. So we started this group very informally. Right now, because I think everyone has a lot of questions about many things and how to do better at them. So we started this session. Yeah.
Yep, so
And then
TLDR, we can thought leadering too. So we need to have our own group.
yeah. Also the GIF that you saw in the slide before this, right? It's just a short story of how we came to the name and why it's a bubble tea icon, because there's a lot of avocados, but then the Asian version of avocado is in avocado milkshake. Right? Yeah. Okay. Alicia, do you want to introduce yourself first? Because I feel like I'm talking too much.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, I'm just really distracted with like meeting people in. All right, hello, my name is Elisha. I'm the founder of Tech Ladies, which is a community for women to learn how to code and get the mentorship they need to start their first careers in technology. So that is super fun, but that's my passion project. So during the day, I work at Facebook as a developer programs manager, building developer communities all around Southeast Asia and ANZ. Happy to meet all of you.
Yep. And then my name's Sarah, and I work at Microsoft for developer relations for Asia Pacific specifically. I'm kind of new to DevRel, only started last year, January. So a lot to learn from all of you. I'm sure you're more experienced. So yeah, I really want to hear from all of you. Okay, so I'm going to go through the agenda real quick. Where we're going to start. So I think we are already a good 10 minutes in. We'll probably spend another 5 minutes to run through some housekeeping. Hopefully we can get everyone to introduce themselves at some point. And then we'll jump right into the discussion topic. So for the first 20 minutes, we will discuss the developer engagement during COVID-19. I think that is the biggest topic on everyone's minds right now. And we had a lot of great questions. So thank you for submitting your questions. Then the next 20 minutes will be spent on increasing gender diversity in tech. Definitely that is an ongoing thing that we are always thinking about, but now that we're going remote, how do we look out for that in a new environment? And then thirdly, we will talk about measuring developer engagement. Again, there must have been a standstill for a lot of us. Like I faced a standstill of activities, and also with everything changing, formats changing, how will we change the way that we measure DevRel? And then lastly, we'll do the closing and everyone can show us your pets or whatever you want to show us from your rooms. Yeah. Okay,
Share
next slide.
something safe for work, because the next slide we'll be talking about code of conduct.
Yes. Okay. So real quick on code of conduct. I know we are all familiar with code of conduct, but for this group, we do want to encourage everyone to have a welcoming and safe environment. We want to make sure that everyone's opinion is heard. Also to not have any derogatory terms or any discriminating terms. We want to make sure that we have a respectful, friendly, and professional experience for everyone, regardless of wherever you are from. And also, if you want to have like, it's okay to have a healthy difference of opinion. So it's okay to have a differing opinion. We want everyone to be heard. So please make space for everyone to say their opinions as well. And if anyone breaches these guidelines, definitely there will be remediation. Feel free to like ping myself or Elisha separately outside of this meeting. We'll definitely be taking some action beyond that.
Cool. So I'm gonna do some just quick housekeeping tips. So first of all, because we're all avocados here, so please feel free to change your virtual background, turn on your snap camera, be creative. For those of you who came in a little bit later, you will notice that all of our names are on first name, Twitter handle basis. That just help us to keep in touch with one another after this session. So you have seen like the 3 topics that we will be talking about today. And how it works is Sarah or myself are the moderators, as you can see over here. So we will start by opening the topic and sharing a little bit about our personal experience or things that we have observed that happens in a community. That actually gives you some time to think about what you want to share, what you want to say, because for all of you, this will be the first time that you're seeing all of the questions. So I just want to be mindful that we don't shock you and like, oh, say something now. So while we are sharing all that, please feel free to think about what are each of these topics mean to you, and what are some of the learnings and cool stuff that you've seen happening in your sort of domain. Because we have a lot of people here, we have 16 people right now, and we want to make sure that we're not talking over each other. So if you want to say something, please feel free to physically wave your hand. I'll be keeping a lookout on the gallery view. Or I don't know if you can actually like wave your hand, or maybe just give some kind of reaction, or you can just put your name in a chat group, and that's where we can call you out. Please only start unmuting yourself and share your story after it being indicated by the moderator, just so that we don't have multiple people talking at the same time. All right, so once you start talking, we will not cut you off. So just please be respectful of the time that we have together. We try to wrap this up in about an hour and 15 minutes time. And again, we are recording this session just for the purpose of sharing our knowledge with people who cannot make it for this event, and people who are just curious about what we do for a living. This can be a very good guide for them. So I also want to be very sure that it's a really shitty time to be fired. So please don't share anything you're not supposed to. Okay, stay hired. We don't have a Twitter account ourselves, but we do have a hashtag. We can see on, actually it doesn't make sense to point. You can see on the screen on the lower right hand side, DevRel folks. So feel free to tweet at us. And that's all. Boom.
Actually, for
so let's.
I thought like the hashtag was the hashtag awkward, because that's all I could see on the screen. Like if people start tweeting us and say hashtag awkward. So yes, it's definitely hashtag DevRel folks.
Oh. Okay, I see where. Okay, this thing is not hashtag awkward. That will be hashtag awkward. So please use the hashtag DevRel folks. Okay, so now let's just jump into, and also if anytime you want to say something without actually voicing out, just feel free to use the chat function. I'm keeping a lookout on it. And let's get started on developer engagement during COVID. So it is a sun emoji because that's how like the virus look like. That's the only like reddish thing that kind of look like the cell that I could find. So I thought I should explain my emoji game.
Oh my god.
All right, engagement during COVID-19. So the first topic that we want to discuss as a team is to share about the virus impact on our industry. As you know, this impact not just our industry, but our day-to-day and like all the other industries in the world. And there are definitely things that we have to learn, things we have to change, and things that will stay with us even after this season of virus. So I want to start our discussion with the first theme, and these are 3 questions here. You don't have to answer everything. You don't have to, you can just feel free to pick one that resonates a little bit more with you. So in terms of like, I think the biggest learning here is really taking care of the people in your community. So at Facebook, I run this program called Developer Circles, where we appoint individual developers and empower them as community leaders, building communities under the Facebook brand. So all of these community leaders, they are volunteers, and their lives, their businesses are actually being impacted by COVID right now. So as a developer program manager, building a sense of understanding and empathy has been super helpful, because not everyone wants to lean into community work at this point of time. Some people just want to lean back and take care of themselves. Some people are just simply overwhelmed with their business. Some people lose their jobs even. So one of the biggest learning is just to understand where our community volunteers are at, and to support them regardless of what they decide to do. So that's the main learning. What about you, Sarah?
I mean, like, I think that's a really good point that you raised. Same for me. So because I work across the region, and like usually it's easy to reach out and say like, hey, I have this idea. Do you want to do it, to someone in Indonesia, for example? But because we are not in the same location, and the weird thing about this pandemic is also that every country is experiencing it together, but at a different phase at the same time. So when it was not so bad in Singapore, it was really bad in Indonesia, for example. And then how do we connect across? But then suddenly, like when it's getting very, very bad in Singapore, like it got better in some countries, and they started reaching out with activities. And I think as a regional developer relations professional, then you reach that very weird. It feels very disconnected, because you're like, I'm not in the mood to help right now. So I think like empathy is really important. And then also to the point that a lot of activity has slowed down on the DevRel side. So usually we try to support where we can, which means that rather than being proactive, it's different from marketing. Like marketing is easy to say, I push out a first party program, and I can decide when it goes out. But for developer relations, it is based on your developer community that is doing it in their free time, and when they have passion and time to do this outside of their day job. When they say I need help, then that's where you go and support them. So in that sense, I've had a lot of quiet activity in some locations as well. So yeah, I mean, that is the situation that I'm facing. And I think, yeah, to your point, like empathy is super important, but also at certain points, what I found was useful for me was that how do you ask them, like, can you tell me more about your situation? Maybe we can think about how we can possibly do something else, or how we can work together with you instead of what you used to do. So then that's creating, like, helping them to keep their community going in the same during this tough time as well.
Yeah. Okay, so mics are open now. Not really like mic, but okay, you'll get the point. Anyone would like to share your experience in terms of continuing just your DevRel work during this season?
Oh, and if you're going to speak, like, unmute and then also introduce yourself to everyone on the chat and then share. Yes, we will call names if we do not have a speaker.
Oh, I'll go. No one's going to go. All right. Hey, folks. I'm Kevin. I'm a DevRel out at Kong Inc. So we do kind of infrastructure layer stuff based out in San Francisco. But since the virus broke out in the US, I decided to come take shelter in Taiwan because situation here is a little better. So I guess I count as DevRel Asia now for the time being. As for me, I think we just see a lot of transition of events being planned online. And now we're kind of facing, as a company, this dilemma where, we don't want to just overwhelm the developers that we kind of work with more events, right? I think every company is now trying to throw out another event of their own. And granted, our marketing team did too, but it's very separate from our community team. So what we're doing now is, saying instead of hosting our own community meetups, working with other companies and create one event that can, instead of kind of overwhelming people with multiple. And that said, we're actually working with like Microsoft right now for one for the CNCF space. So I think it's just realizing that the end user, like myself, I feel like there's so many webinars now. I'm not inclined to join any unless there's really compelling content and multiple kind of companies sponsoring it at once. So I know that I can get like concise and good information at once. So So I think that's just something that's going to happen more and more until we can start having like in-person events.
Right, Thor,
Yeah.
you have raised your hand.
Yeah, it works. Hello, everyone. My name is Thor. I'm a developer advocate at Stripe, based out of Singapore here. I actually only moved to Singapore, both into like DevRel officially and Singapore like 8 months ago. So yeah, pretty terrible timing. I was really looking forward to exploring the region and like getting to know everyone. So it's nice to do this virtually now. I think for us at Stripe, there was kind of, we actually saw a lot of business come online for the first time, as kind of folks were, you know, sort of more ordering online and shopping online. And so we shifted a lot of gears kind of towards online content specifically for sort of businesses coming online for the first time and sort of tackling the COVID crisis. So for us, it actually felt somewhat natural in terms of it gave us some sort of focus in terms of what content to focus on, which I realize because we're doing payments, that makes it easier to kind of focus on that. But yeah, so for us, it was really kind of producing that self-serve content and kind of creating sort of a resource page where folks that sort of need to shift their business can find that information. I think for me personally, it has sort of there's been a lot of events moving online, and I've been somewhat not so motivated to attend because there's so many of them, and I've kind of been flooded. So I'm sort of trying to figure out how to actually find the right events for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm gonna like move on here because I think is what you what Kevin also touched upon, and I think this is a question from Ollie that he submitted, that you know, with like all of everyone moving online now, it's even as just an event attendee, I know that location is no longer a boundary, right? Like in the past, I actually decide on, oh, this meetup is too far, I'm not gonna go, this one is nearer. But now like, everything is online, just a few clicks and it opens me up to a lot of events, and there are a lot of events. So, which also I think we can talk about it more later, because we will also talk about event measuring online engagement, which I personally think that this is going to be something that will stick with our industry for a while, because back in the day, everything is in person, so it's kind of difficult to really measure the effectiveness of like, hey, you did this talk, so what? Like, how do you effectively measure that? But now when we bring events online, there's like tracking links. There are, you know, if you have the email address, you can also track for conversion, etc. I think this is a good practice for our industry to, and I think this is something that's going to stick. But yeah, let's talk about engaging with developers online. I guess everyone can agree that we are oversaturated. So what are some of the best practices that we can stay engaging with our audience? Like, how do you stand out? Or maybe we want to start discussing how we can collaborate with each other on events. So again, if you just join us, if you want to speak, you can feel free to just physically wave your hand or sign like the hand icon or just any icon that will notify us that you want to speak. Okay. Yash Raj. Sorry, I butchered your name, but please take it over.
Hi everyone. My name is Yash Raj. I manage the developer communities at ProGate. We are an online coding learning platform from Japan. So I work from India, but as it's an online platform, my work is not just limited to India. It's like it's a global community. So one learning which I wanted to share is that we also have moved to online events. Earlier, we used to do a lot of offline learning workshops or sort of engagement activities to cheer them up. But now we have to shift them to online. And one learning which I have included is encouraging community to community, like participant to participant engagement, because often the online events tend to be monotonous, or it's only speaker talking to the participants. There is no engagement among themselves. Then it becomes like very monotonous. So we are trying with that. We are encouraging them. We are making opening opportunities for them to connect with each other who are joining that same particular session, so that they can help each other. So for example, if we hosted some workshop, online workshop on React, and everyone who joined, we encourage them to not only rely on the speaker to answer their questions. If they know the answer, someone is asking, jump in and answer that question in the chat window. So we saw a very good response from the participants, and I think that's very important. How we can encourage them to also connect with each other, not just one-way communication. Yeah. So that's one learning I have seen so far, apart from what everyone else.
Like interactivity during your online session. I think that's a really big thing that we need to think about as well right now, because being remote and being online is a very different kind of interaction from an in-person interaction. Aside from, recently I've also been thinking like events are one way, but also we noted just now that there is an oversaturation of a lot of workshops and events online. So to maintain a sense of community in our work, how else beyond events does anyone have any ideas or best practices of how, other than events, do we engage with communities, especially when we're going to be online and remote for a long time to come?
Right. Ollie, I see your hand raised. Would you want to share?
Yeah, hi there from sunny Stockholm, indeed. So right, just a short intro. So yeah, my name is Ole, as you see. I'm ex-Unity. Since Unity was like a small startup, I worked there. Then I worked at King, and now I sort of build developer relations programs, like boutique ones, pretty much, as a contractor. So to the point of your question. My humble opinion is that as we've just discussed, that everybody is fighting for that screen time, because like that's how you talk to people right now. But indeed there is so much noise, and like we've discussed that already. So what is the solution? I think one of the potential solutions is suddenly tech writers, documentarians, like people that we in DevRel normally don't talk to. But as we in Stockholm developer relations, that we discovered at Stockholm developer relations meetups, is that tech writers and documentarians essentially in like from many angles do very similar stuff that we developer advocates do. They pretty much communicate to the users of whatever API or tool we sort of provide. And they are normally very skilled at explaining how to use that tool. And we developer advocates and developer evangelists, we know how to talk to developers like in real life, or like how to help them engagement, how to help them, how to encourage them engage with the tool or API that we advocate for. So all in all, what I'm trying to say, that suddenly when there are no real life events, the texts, our own documentation becomes our tool to evangelize or advocate for whatever we cater for. And here we go. Now we suddenly think, okay, how our documentation can be ranked high in Google search results. How do we or what manuals do we create so that people Google for them and find them? So our own API reference, our own manuals suddenly become the evangelist, the advocate for our tool. So yeah, tech writers, that's one point. Second point, our own manuals and API docs.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it also resonates with Thor's previous point on noticing that there's a new segment of users coming on board, and how you're creating different content to help facilitate product adoption. But it also I feel like it also creates the sort of existential question, right? Like, what's my job about? If like the technical writers are doing their amazing stuff, where can we then best like bring value to the whole our companies? Yeah, I want to hop back into online engagement. Yashraj, I keep mispronouncing your name. I apologize. I really like the point that you talk about how do you facilitate attendee interaction, because I think that's something that is not easy to do in an online event, even for like an event like what we have today. There is a moderator trying to facilitate a discussion rather than having, there's no multi-thread discussion communication in an online event, which I think that's a thing that's quite hard to replicate. And I'd love to have you dive deeper and share a little bit more to like what tactically, how are you encouraging this kind of a peer-to-peer attendee interaction?
Yeah, sure thing. So actually, I just applied the basics, the fundamentals of DevRel, which we keep learning about. Is that so I made a very open environment. In the beginning, I ensured that everyone feels very comfortable that they can also speak up, they can ask questions, and in case they know some answer which is asked by someone else, they should jump in. And I encourage that this is the way you can connect with each other, and they understood the value of it. In the beginning, I told them that we are online, we are not in an offline environment where we could all talk to each other. So please stay very active in the chat window. That is very important. And whenever so you always don't have to wait for the speaker to look at your question. In case you think you can help, you should share some insights with your fellow participant. And also combined with that, in the beginning I encouraged everyone to to share their elevator pitch. One thing which they think which is most exciting about them and people should know, so that they can even if they haven't met in person, they can connect with each other and they can become more comfortable while being during the session. So yeah, those were the things. And it didn't work in the first go. Definitely I had to try again and again. And also to some extent it depends on kind of audience you have. So if you have a curated audience who are there for a purpose, for example, they are not just someone who saw the link online and they have just joined. They are someone who like followed through some process, then there are higher chances of them being connected with each other, them being very active. And yeah, so those are the things which I have seen so far.
So it sounds like a tangible ways to make sure that you also check in on the community that is entering your session, and like if they are more interested, then that will encourage higher interactivity during the session as well. That's a good point. I also see that Kevin has his hand raised.
Yeah, so something we had really good success was basically opening a Slack channel for the event. This way, basically we had 2 tracks for the event. Both tracks had their own channel. And after each session for the speaker, the expectation was the speaker would be in that channel to answer any questions. And we got really good engagement in those channels. And a lot of the audiences also really like that over using the Zoom chat function, because the ability to thread and just, I think the ability to see the whole conversation is much easier. So I highly recommend anyone looking to implement that too.
Yeah, I think it's also a point around inclusivity, like not just having people, so not everyone is comfortable in front of the camera or actually speaking. So having that written format for them to interact as well is also going to be important. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And,
learning. Okay, go ahead.
Is the feedback loop. So for example, if you have 100 attendees in your online session and you're trying to ignite that peer-to-peer communication among themselves, and you have been trying hard, and then not everyone will start communicating in the beginning. So there would be those 5 or 10 people in the beginning. So when we keep encouraging them, others get encouraged by seeing, oh yeah, like they are getting appreciated by being more active. So it's like that effect also works.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. So let's practice it now. Does everyone feel safe and comfortable? Feel free to answer each other's questions as we go along. And wait, what else? Introduce yourself in a chat group. We don't have a Slack yet, but we'll do it for the next time. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to like wrap this up so that we can move on to the next few themes. Is there anyone wants to share or have any questions for the group that we can discuss? Now is your time.
Yeah, I do really want to hear from other parts, like other countries as well that have not shared yet. Be good to know what's happening across the rest of Asia. Japan, looking at you.
Hi, all.
Oh,
Go
yes,
for
hi
it,
Jordan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan, and I'm working for a company called Crunch. We're based in Hong Kong. So what we're actually looking to do is to use data to help DevRel better understand, the impact of their, whatever they're doing. It could be blog posts or sample coding, going to conference talk. So Alicia, you just now talked about, where everything's now moving online, and it's actually easier to measure the engagement from the audience. So actually, it's a question to you too, and I guess to everyone. How do you kind of like track that engagement right now? I mean, are there any like tools you guys are using that has been helpful?
Okay, I'm going to jump in and say something extremely not useful. So I work at this company called Facebook, so everything is on platform.
Maybe from me, like to your question, Jordan, maybe we can share a bit. So for Microsoft, we do have to Ollie's point earlier on scalable, like content that is scalable. When we create any piece of content, we make sure that there are tracking links behind it, and then it all flows back into the data dashboard, the Power BI dashboard that we view, so we can actually see what the traffic is like, what the interaction is like across different geographies. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a good point. Like I definitely want to talk more about that in the measurement of DevRel, which is I think that will also be very much impacted by COVID now. So we should definitely double click on that. Anyone else has anything more to share on COVID, like the current COVID situation, how DevRel has changed for you before we close off the topic?
So I had something to share, ask actually.
Ashraf,
Yeah, so I was wondering, so I saw some tweet of someone, he was an engineer at Microsoft, and he shared that Microsoft has been like very supportive in this tough time, and then they have moved their, automatically moved their targets and everything further. So talking about us like DevRel folks and community folks, have you seen any such kind of support from your respective companies? That they have, they understand that this is the tough time, this is not the same situation, and have the goalposts have been shifted, or any change you have seen so far? Yeah, so that is what I was curious about.
Yeah, the goalposts have shifted. Nobody really know where it is now. Just kidding. But yeah, definitely all the goals are accommodated to the environmental changes.
I think Thor also raised his hand.
Yeah, I was about to go to Thor.
Yeah, I just wanted on the engagement piece, kind of one thing we found useful is Zoom rooms. So basically, where previously you had sort of Q&A rooms and like physical at like physical conferences. Basically, if you have talks, you open up a Zoom room after each talk, where folks that want to specifically have Q&A with like a specific speaker can basically branch out into those rooms. So that is another thing that works pretty well.
Yeah, that's something that we have not, well, at least in my world, I've actually not explored Zoom rooms. Are these the same as the breakout rooms, or is actually the rooms feature?
Yeah, the breakout rooms, yeah.
Okay. Wait, Hui Jing, did you just scratch your head, or is that a hand raise?
Hand raise.
Oh, okay, go for it.
So just a brief introduction. I'm with the developer relations team at a company called Vonage, who does communications APIs, and one of the things that we have is it's a video communications API which powers this platform called Remo. I don't think many people have heard of it. But I think the reason, so my team, most of my team, in fact all my team is in London or the US. I'm the only one in APAC for now. But my UK colleagues have kind of ramped up their online support. So not so much organizing ourselves, but to just sort of provide help, support, and a boost for just meetups that used to be in person, but now are forced to go online and stuff. But it's not everybody's very familiar in terms of how to set things up in terms of like recording and all that kind of thing. So that was one of the things that they started out wanting to do. And after a while, they found Vimo as a platform quite quite useful in terms of facilitating engagement because of the way they do. I think it's kind of similar to Zoom rooms, but it's quite hard to describe in words. It's easier if you see. They kind of try to set it up such that it's virtually but in a conference environment. Okay, so if you can imagine there's like tables at a conference, you kind of group people into these like quote unquote table things. Yeah, that's one of the things that my colleagues seem to be quite on about, especially for a lot of the UK events. But to touch on the earlier question about how metrics are changing, I think I'm also very lucky that the Vonage DevRel community team specifically, they are very, I would say, adaptable. Like our manager is very aware of the situation and knew that the metrics that, because the way we do it is more of you set your metrics so that it's not prescriptive, right? It's like you take ownership of it. She was very aware that like everything anybody said in Q1 is just thrown out the window. For the most part, Q2 is also out the window. So it has always been a constant. What they've been doing is literally like daily catch-ups, just 15 minutes, which to me was new, because they clearly meet in the office and I'm just hanging out here. But now, like, because all of them are stuck at home, then they do this call thing, which was actually increased engagement with me personally. But so one of the things that they've been doing is, of course, shifting the focus to online metrics. Shifting the focus to, like, very, very early on in this conversation was content, because one of the things, because every company I know does DevRel differently. For me personally, I've always been in a weird position, because I was brought in to do APAC DevRel. Let's be honest, there is no APAC DevRel to speak of. So I sit in both the content team as well as the community team. So in terms of content, right, what I've noticed, even in my own production, is that we have literally half the team has shifted over to video content. I think it's just kind of like seeing where the wind blows. But written content at the end of the day is still a higher engagement to events. I think I'm not sure how much you all would agree or disagree with me. I think a lot of us in the call are community people, but because I have like my one hand is also in the content side of things. I find that at the end of the day, content engagement has a much longer. It's like over time it's more persistent in terms of engagement. But one of the things that my manager also mentioned, that is that with online events, it's actually also easier to get numbers, because our numbers used to be very fluffy. you will be like, oh, you go give a talk, you just ask how many people are like, how many people heard of Vonage, raise hand, and then that's a number. I'm like, that's not a number, like, for God's sake. But it's yeah, so I think there's a pro and cons in doing online events as well, in terms of this kind of like, you as a developer relations person, your own career metrics in this trying time, because everything else about developer engagement you already covered already, so I'm just saying it as an employee kind of standpoint lah. Yeah, that is all.
I think it's a very good point that's raised. I really definitely think let's move on. Like that's a perfect dovetail into the next topic. And also I think like Jordan has raised it, Yashraf has raised it as well. Like metrics are going to be a big piece. I think it's changing a lot. Even for me, my team at Microsoft, like the way we measure our metrics has also changed. And it's changed very rapidly. It's not even fixed because it's been changing all the time. So and I like the point around like how do we look at, you know, we can't just look at events anymore. We have to look at events and content and then track that total engagement, because now everything's online and everything counts. I also see the chat and questions being asked. Like Ollie also raised a good point around people like, you know, can we share a little bit more discussion around how we are measuring, how we are being measured, maybe things that are possible and safe to share from your side. If anybody wants to unmute and share how that's being measured in their company and how that has changed recently, please feel free to do so.
Okay, I guess I will fill in the silence while everyone figure out like which one is appropriate to say, which one is probably will get you fired. You know, I think for us, definitely the number of community events used to be an important sort of things that we measure, but at this time. So one of the challenges that we have right now is that on the virtual world, what is an online event and what is just a piece of content online, right? The lines are actually really blurred right now. Back in the day, if it's an in-person event, whatever happens in the room, that is an event. And everything maybe is an event recording, etc. That's just a piece of content online, right? But right now the lines are super blurred. To be honest, we're still trying to figure out like what is the best way to define things. Again, this is a very new territory for us, but I think it's a great exercise in just like figuring things out, because as Ollie pointed out, I'm sure there's a lot of people here that will agree is that our performance, our yardstick of success, there isn't really an industry standard, I would say. And it just differs based on the product, based on your role, even the role, like whether you're a developer, evangelist, or a program manager or a community manager. The metrics differ so much for each other. So yeah, TLDR is just like, okay, everything is online. What is an online event? What's not an event? And based on that, like, what do we want to measure? It really depends on who you're talking to.
And I also see, I think Olivia raised her hand as well. Olivia, do you want to unmute and share?
Hello. Hello, I'm Olivia from Korea. Hello. And I also work for Microsoft under developer relationship. What I do is a bit different from what Sarah do. I support the tech leaders in APEC region. I just wanted to talk about what had changed, and I think it's related to the question that Oli asked. What I learned from this COVID-19 and what had changed to me was that, like, I have learned that importance of the human connection in a personal level. Before I was like, I just shared more about community event and job stuff with them. I was a bit worried if they feel that I overstep if I approach them personally too much. But now I realize that it is okay, or it's more essential to approach them with more personal level, especially under these difficult times. So what I want to say is, under this time, it's okay for us to be measured how much we support them fully emotionally, not just to count the number of meetups we arranged. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
I agree 100%. I think like empathy is so important for our professions, right? Like beyond just trying to get people to use our products, join our community, It's about understanding the community, the people behind it, and make sure that we're there for them. So Ollie, I see your hand, so you go next.
Thank you so much. So I don't have a super easy answer. However, I wanna put the question even deeper. I guess like we started this meetup from saying like everybody like it's a shitty time to get fired. The problem is that in many companies right now, well, they have to do staff reductions, and it's often that the bosses like take decisions of who do they fire by like, well, what do these guys do? Let's just fire them. And unfortunately, developer relations people are often one of the first to go out. That's in many reasons. That's because like people higher up, they like, so okay, what do these guys do? We have salespeople, we have marketing people. Let's reduce marketing, and also let's reduce this. We don't have events. So when I'm going to the management, to the KPI and measurement question, is that I always like whenever I work for or like whatever organization that I represent, I always have like numbers, reasons for me to get employed, for my group to get employed, that whoever boss shows up in my office on Friday afternoon saying, hey, so like what have you been doing for the last quarter? I always have a numbers, and these numbers are eatable by the people upstairs. It's not like the number of events I've been to or my group have been to. It's not the number of people I have spoken to, because that's what marketing do. I mean, I can speak physically whatever to 100 people, 1,000 people. Marketing people, they can easily like put the number that they have spoken to millions, because I mean they pay the Facebook ad or Google ad or marketing campaign. That's millions. So, and like obviously marketing people are more valuable. They speak to millions, I speak to hundreds of thousands. Like that's fine. Me no. So that's not the numbers I normally bring up to like have in my pocket to show to the bosses or the bosses of the bosses, especially in these tough times. I don't speak to like immediate bosses. I speak to bosses of the bosses of the bosses, because like people higher up take the like where I'm going here to pretty much I'm trying to advocate for us in this industry being much better with numbers that justify our existence. And these numbers I mean I cannot easily like tell what these numbers are, because we all are so different and we have so different KPIs. Some of us are under sales, some of us are under marketing, some of us are under product, and like we have different reasons to exist. But what I'm advocating for, that we take the numbers and the KPIs seriously, and we like optimize these numbers, this measurements to be eatable by the bosses who don't get DevRel at all, and it's fine for them to not get DevRel. We are parts of bigger organization, and we have to cater like to the whole organization, not only to our department. So that's the reason why numbers are important, and we should get better at that.
Yeah,
that's it.
I have an interesting question. I want to pose it to the entire team. So how many of you can confidently say that if like your CEO comes to you and say, hey, we're going to fire you right now unless you give me like a list of prove to me why you're valuable, or I'm going to fire you now. How many of you, raise your hand if you are, how many of you can confidently produce that kind of value? Okay, we have 2. That's kind of sad. Are we all going to be fired? Is anyone hiring now, just in case? Yeah, jokes aside. All right, so I just want to like
raise his hand also.
Yeah, like Ram and Laura. I just want to. I think this exercise is a good sort of. I think a point of reflection for all of us to see that, okay, we really got to get our shit together in terms of like matrices and all that, because this industry is a new industry, and given difficult times, we got to like make sure we have the metrics going on. So I'm going to go to Ram first and then Laura. So Ram, go ahead.
Thanks, Alicia. before I begin, thank you so much for putting this group together. And it's nice to hear from a very diverse bunch of voices during a monotonous day during lockdown and remote work and stuff. But so my name is Ram. I work from South India, and I work for a couple of companies. One based out of the West Coast in San Francisco, and one based out of London. What I was going to mention, especially in regards to measurement and other things, sort of touches upon the very existentialist question that you posed about, can you confidently tell what you are contributing? And also some observations that I've made in general, being part of DevRel under different departmental heads. I think the important, so the 2 points I wanted to make. The first one is I think it's important to make a distinction between measuring activity versus measuring progress. So yes, we are able to conduct a particular number of events. Yes, these number of events are generating a particular number of participants for us over a month, over a year, etc. But going by a parallel example that marketing departments have done over the years, marketing departments generate leads, and then sales departments act on these leads, and they generate a sort of intermediary stage before they generate a pipeline. They say, here are sales accepted leads for this month. So marketing generates leads, sales works off of a pipeline, but then in the middle, there is a sales accepted lead. So I don't know. So depending on what product it is and how effective marketing teams are, the filter between, or the funnel width rather, between leads and pipeline could be big, could be small. And I think the important sort of visibility and transparency comes from having a metric that sort of blends these two worlds. So I think the whole DevRel fraternity will benefit a lot from having these different metrics that are interdepartmental, or make an impact between DevRel and marketing, DevRel and sales, DevRel and product or something else. So that way, I think it's easy to prove value within a company and say, hey, depending on these 2-3 areas that are of key impact to us, the developer relations department has had an impact because we've helped, I don't know, source so many opportunities from a particular event or something like that. So I think I just wanted to share the fact that we make a distinction between measuring activity, measuring progress, and making sure that measurements happen across departments and not just in silos.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's a very helpful reminder. And at Facebook, we have this saying that says, don't mistake what motion for progress. Actually, I might be butchering it. Forget it. I'm going to cut this out of the recording. Up next, Laura, I think you raised your hand previously. Over to you now.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Laura. I'm leading the GDG communities based in Indonesia. Actually, I was raising my hand to answer Alicia's question previously, but so in terms of measurement, I think all of us have the same measurement. So in terms of community size, how healthy our communities are, how frequent are they hosting events. But in the current situation, I think we have to shift it on impacts, which is also one of the challenges I'm facing right now. How our community engagement is relevant in the current situation. So right now, one of the best practices that I've been implementing amongst my communities is to really hear what the needs of communities, whether it's career advice or technical advice or any topics that is very relevant to them. We ensure that those topics are covered in our online engagement. And one of the things that works very well through our community engagement right now is letting communities learn at their own pace. So just to touch base on the previous question about oversaturated, I think one way to stand out is to support communities with and also resources in which communities can learn at their own pace. From what I see in Indonesia right now, developers are current, most of them are legal. So say for example, they just graduated last year and then they moved to our capital city to find work. And right now they cannot go back to their city. So one way that we are providing value to our community management, community engagement is that actually our online engagement is the only support system that they are able to have. So it's really important, and I think we have to give kudos to all of us here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. So sorry to interrupt you.
So to touch base on the previous question about no worries.
Yeah.
Are
So
you
you are actually quite broken right now. So I thought it was just me, so I didn't want to interrupt. But I think your connectivity is a little bit challenged. I feel like you're saying a lot of like important stuff. I'm hearing like online engagement importance. I feel like I'm missing out. So if it's not too much of a trouble, could you type out what you said earlier in the chat so that all of us can learn from your experience?
Yeah, I can help because I could hear Laura well. I just couldn't see her, but I can just recap. I think correct me if I'm wrong. Please feel free to type it up as well in case I misrepresent you. But you did mention something around making sure you collect topics from your community so that the topics for your meetup are relevant to your community. I think that was one. And then you also raised the point of how it's important for content to be self-paced learning during this time so that people can slowly upskill themselves. And then you had one more point, but then I think that one I couldn't hear. But please feel free to type it out.
No worries. I'll type it out. Thank you.
Oh, you're much clearer now if you want to talk. Like, I can hear you super clear if everyone can.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. I my video, so I think it works better in the video. So just to add for my last point, I think there was a discussion about value. I think what we are doing is really important, especially at the current situation, because some of our developers, I know in Indonesia, most of them live alone in the capital city. So for example, some of them graduated last year, found a job, moved to their capital city, and right now they are unable to move to their home city. So it's quite challenging for them, and the only support system or the only way they can learn is through our community engagement. So just want to say kudos to everyone here and keep doing the great work that we are doing.
As long as we can measure it and don't get fired. So I'm going to wrap this up, this content, before we move on to the next theme. So on here, if anyone wants to talk about any questions here, please feel free to go ahead. And the last point here in bold, speaking of measurement, because this is meant to be a third theme, so it's kind of like in the middle. Now we're asking for everyone here to do one of our favorite activities, which is filling out survey forms. So this is just a very, very short one, I promise you. It's just for us to know, what worked well, what didn't work well, and how we can improve it for you. So please go to bit.ly/DevRel folks1, and that will open up a beautiful Google form. Okay, Clark, over. Anyone else want to speak on this topic? If not, we will then move on to the last topic. I will give 10 seconds of silence before we move on.
Can I say one thing as everyone thinks? I just want to add on to Ollie's point on measurement. Was it Ollie or also Ram's point around like numbers being important? I think like in addition to that, one thing that can also be that I have seen worked for higher ups to see the value of DevRel, especially during this time, is when we are able to tell lighthouse stories, authentic stories, of course, of ways that we've helped developers during this time. And I think today, in the current landscape of oversaturated content and content being king, having a really good story that has a good, authentic background to it, a little bit emotional as well, solves a really good cause, uses your technology, is one thing that can really prove your value of DevRel to the higher ups up there, which is something they cannot get easily from marketing, they cannot get it easily from sales. Only DevRel is the one that's able to provide that. So that was my 2 cents that I really wanted to share.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, let's move on to the last theme of the day. Sarah?
Okay, so as we go into this last theme, please do not fill out the survey while we are doing this theme. Please participate in it. This one's really important because we did put out like questions that, we wanted to crowdsource questions on this last topic of gender diversity in tech. But surprisingly, we did not get many questions from it, and we think that that's also something to talk about. Yeah, I know. That is also something to talk about around like how, like, let's not lose, not drop the ball on gender diversity. Oh, okay, we have someone who's joining right now. Yeah, let's not drop the ball on gender diversity. I think that's still a pressing issue within tech, and also let's talk about it against the background of the current landscape of going remote. So now that we are more remote, how do we continue encouraging gender diversity across digital conversations and remote conversations, given the fact that, like, for example, gender-specific issues have arisen in the past few months. So there's been like articles that have come out around online harassment being more prevalent and on the rise nowadays, where people can, Zoom bombing is one way, but also like individual attacks where people DM, slide into people's DMs and it gets very uncomfortable, and then females don't feel like they're in a safe space. How do we continue encouraging, like creating a safe space and also encouraging females to join the conversation and making sure that we maintain the gender diversity in tech?
Yeah, and while everyone is thinking about this topic, I can do a little bit of sharing here. So I think actually, given this world and like online content is great for gender diversity because of accessibility. A lot of women in different culture, they are unable to go to physical meetups because they may have some, they may have to go home to cook because they are woman, mother, daughter, sister, etc. There may also be cultural nuances, like it's not appropriate for women to be out alone with men, when it's dark outside. So bring everything online where women can participate at home. I think that's great for gender diversity. And one of the things I want to share is a conference that I did for International Women's Day at Facebook this year. It was actually designed to be online. It was online by design. The whole COVID thing just sort of ensure that our plans are not affected. So in this conference, what we did was we have speakers based in Singapore, and we did a live stream that reaches out to our community across the region. Now, we did that for two reasons. The first thing was accessibility, as I talked about. And I later learned that even just providing captions is great for people who are not native English speaker. It is also great for mothers who don't want to have the volume up because they have kids running around. So just having captions is great for diversity, gender diversity specifically, because mothers can just read off the caption. Accessibility is one. The other sort of problem that we solve through this live stream is also access to speakers. In a lot of countries in Asia, we have I would say the pool of senior women and female leaders. The size of it really depends on which part of Asia you're at. So having everything online ensures that we can tap into inspirational figures from all over the place, right? You're no longer just confined to a physical location and see what are some of the women leaders, if any, of the city, but now you're open up to the entire world. So I think a silver lining here is that all of this COVID online stuff can actually be leveraged to push for more gender diversity in our industry. And now I will stop talking, and Sarah, back to you.
No, back to me, back to them. Anyone has any views you want to share, like ways they've experienced this? We're looking also for any ideas. Since this is all new for all of us, if you have any best practices that you've tried out, or things that we talked about that we didn't cover, that we didn't think about, maybe we can share the rest of everyone here as well. Olivia, okay. Yes, Olivia, please unmute yourself and share.
Yeah, hello. I'm totally agree with what Alicia said, and also this applies to the in-person event for sure too. But to the topic should be chosen carefully, since there are more opportunities and possibilities for women to join remotely. We can intentionally choose the women-friendly topic, or also for those countries like Korea, because LGBT is not something the society accepts easily. So maybe we can choose that topic, but we encourage the attendees not to share their video, to be able to talk openly.
As in to keep their video off so that they can share without people, like, why would they keep their video off? Sorry.
Yeah, because in Korea, it's not safe to show their face and then talk about or say that they're like in the LGBT community yet. So yeah, I think it's one of the benefits for virtual events.
Yeah, you can join anonymously.
Yeah, it's totally difficult to find the queer event or LGBT event, in-person event here.
Yeah, so I think that was a good point as well. And I think, like, you know, joining anonymously has its pros and cons. And joining anonymously also means that there requires, like, how do we make sure that it's used for good rather than used for bad? So that's another thing to think about. So does anyone else have any best practices that they think, or ways that they are implementing gender diversity or inclusivity into their current remote activities? But if no one raises their hands, we also have an issue. Like, means there is no practices across remote activities.
We have Ollie and Ram.
Yeah,
Maybe Ollie, you want to go first? Okay, Ram, you can go first.
No, I was just going to share that until recently, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, so I had 2 points to add here as well. Definitely, when it comes to
Oh, sorry, Ram, please continue.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I didn't realize that it was a big deal, and I didn't realize the impact of um, um, the focus on gender diversity until very recently when I started to work with startups, especially from around the globe. So, having worked for 2 or 3 sort of big-ish companies at the start of my career, the crowd around was quite diverse. There was a good balance between, in terms of gender, in terms of other affiliations and things like that. But the past 3 or so years have exposed me to a lot of startups and smaller companies, especially where it's not even a thing that people think about. And I've worked with companies in Europe, in Canada, in some parts of UK, several parts of India, and everywhere it's just not a thing that people even think about. So, I mean, I don't have a good answer to how remote working is changing things, but the ideas that I've heard so far and whatever opinions that are being expressed seems like a step in the right direction, and we should definitely capitalize on this trend of lesser borders and more opportunity to try and make a dent, however small we can.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Also, thanks for being so open to sharing that it's also something new for you. I know it's not easy to share that, you know, like you're new to a topic. So thanks for being open about that. Yeah, and I also think Ollie had a point. I just want to make sure I caught the raised hand. Ollie, did you want to share something?
Yes. Since we're discussing complex questions, I don't have an easy answer for us all, and so that's normal. But I wanna provide a different angle to this complex question. The angle is the following. And maybe I hang out with whatever sales, business, director level people too much, but like this question requires sort of investment and airtime to discuss. And when you bring this to the bosses, like blah blah blah, diversity, we need to improve. And if you're like on the short hand with the bosses, if you're very good with them, they start asking, okay, where is the money? Like, why do we invest in that? And actually, I have an answer to this question. That's a shitty question. I mean, like, we should do this. It's not about the money. That's but like when it comes to the person who owns the budgets, it is about the money because it's their budget. So how do we help them share the budgets to this question? And here's my answer. Here's the answer that I give. I point it out that now it's actually becoming more and more trendy, and we get more and more women in STEM, in math, in physics, in programming. And with machine learning, especially training, we have even more women doing that. And in developer relations, I mean, it's very often, I mean, this group is different, but in Europe and in Sweden, it's normally like white males over 30 with a beard. So it's like 30-year-old dudes talking to 30-year-old dudes. And we talk, like, we have developed the language that we understand in this wild males over 30 group. But especially young women, it's not the language they can leverage. And in order to appeal this ever-growing audience, you have to represent that audience from inside. So whichever software or tool or API we represent, in order to reach that ever-growing audience, we have somebody who represents that audience. So that's the reason to invest in more diverse developer relations team, and to have somebody who would cater to this super duper fast growing audience of young women leveraging STEM and programming and machine learning and all the things. So that's my point.
Yeah, I think to your question as well, like which also you answered, but also it's a good question to raise around how do you prove the business justification of diversity. I do think there are a lot of reports out there as well, written, some for tech, not all for tech, but some for other businesses as well, on why a diverse team and why making your products more diverse has business value as well. You open a large part of the market. It's also scientifically proven that you get like more innovation when you have such teams. So I think those are definitely reasons as to why we should be diverse. Yeah, and I think it's a good one. I think what I myself am gaining from this conversation right now is that while gender diversity is something that we always think about, maybe right now during this current like COVID situation, it is challenging because I think that it takes a back burner, it takes a back seat sometimes, especially when everyone's rushing to solve more immediate problems. I think that is a good thing to think about for all of us as well as we plan our activities, that this is, although it is not an immediate problem, it is a problem that is still a big problem, and it's something that if we drop the ball on, we'll very easily go back into having much less gender diversity than we do have today. I do think on an optimistic note though, while anyone's thinking of any other points they want to raise, I do want to think on an optimistic note. I like what Olivia said around how Olivia and Alicia brought up the points of how we can organize more activities now with women groups. We did have an example where in New York, previously they wanted to partner with a group of female data scientists that we couldn't get them into a workshop and get them trained because everyone was so busy and they had like schedules to go home to their kids, and they're all more of the middle-aged group. But now, given that everything is remote, what we've successfully done is to be able to enable these remote workshops that they could do a self-paced learning and then just have a one-off like real-time discussion where everyone completed the course, and that's where they all got trained. So these are optimistic views that I think that we can think about moving forward. Like, how do we reach out to these women groups, especially in these times, and say like, hey, previously we couldn't do anything, now maybe we can. So yeah. And if just before we close off this one topic, does anyone have any other points to raise on gender diversity, especially in our remote environment today? Okay, and if we don't, then we are at the end of our session, I think, right, Alicia? think we are
Yeah,
going.
so I was wondering if everyone will be okay if we take like a group photo. Like for those of you who don't mind switching on your camera, now is the time. For those of you who don't want to switch on your camera, totally fine because we still have your name and your Twitter handle, and we're so glad that you can join us. All right, so we're gonna wait like 10 seconds for you to switch, like find a good angle and switch on the camera.
I like how we
All
say you
right.
can find, and then like Hui Jing just sat there, like didn't move at all, like just like this angle.
She has the best angle all the time. Oh, Tara, what's that? Oh, hammer, cute.
Oh, the hammer already disappeared.
Okay, so I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3 so everyone can look at the camera. So it won't like catch you in a weird angle, okay? Let me do this. Oh my god, can I not take? Okay. All right, everybody look at your camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect.
Hey.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Check it later. Okay.
So end of the session, I know according to agenda, we do have like 9 more minutes. We do want to open it up to open mic for anyone to address anything. So if you're know someone looking for a role, you're looking to hire anyone, you want to raise it up, this is like the industry space to say it. Okay, Hui Jing, I see you have raised your hand. Yes.
Hui Jing's hiring.
Understandably in this trying time, if anyone is looking for a job or knows anyone who is interested in a DevRel position, Vonage is hiring for APEC developer advocate role as well as a APEC community manager role. So like if you know anyone, just kind of I guess you can link that up to me, or is there a place I can post link or something?
Use the hashtag and we will find it. And we will find it on Twitter. Use the hashtag DevRel.
Okay. Yeah, so FYI, Vonage hiring for APEC roles. Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else hiring? Wants a new job?
I think, yeah, also Microsoft is hiring for academic advocates, but in the academic space for education. There are multiple roles internationally. We are opening up those positions.
While everybody is silent, I sort of wanted to thank you for organizing this. It was fun. And so yeah, just thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming.
We would also like to have rotating hosts. So if anyone is interested in taking on the next edition of Asia DevRel folks, please reach out. It is not tough, trust us. We swear it'll be fun. You can take over all the assets we've created, but we hope to keep this running for everyone.
Yeah, so you can feel free to use this beautiful background. Sorry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was saying one point which I wanted to add is again, thank you for making this possible, and also I think we can reach a little bit more DevRel people who are in the region. So one hack, like growth hack, for that might be, while registering for this, maybe we can nominate someone who also should join, so that they can also receive the invitation. So everyone, for example, if 50 people are registering, 50 more will get a nomination from there, something like that. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's super good. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I just want to shout out something. So DevRelCon Earth is looking, the CFP is open. So if you want to submit a talk, everything is going to be virtual. And as I know, it's going to take place over a couple of weeks. So everything's going to be virtual. So if you have anything you want to share, maybe just like all the amazing learnings that you shared today, I'll send a link. I'll tweet the link out using the hashtag so you can look out for it.
Must it be Earth related? Must it be environmentally related?
It's DevRelCon Earth. I think you can talk about DevRel or conference or Earth, both works.
We can talk about Earth.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually meant to be DevRelCon SF, but now they have to do it virtual, so they thought, why don't just do it for everyone, regardless of geographical boundary anyway. So I know that apparently there's some like speaker from the DevRel Japan, Tokyo. I don't think it happened as well earlier this year. So maybe that's why they're doing virtual. But yeah, they're accepting speakers all over the place. You're not like bounded by your physical location. So I will tweet that out, the CFP, and do take a look.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great night, day, whichever one you are doing. See you at the next one.